Hi, my name is Orlando Saiz, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Aker Technologies. And I want to welcome you to this presentation on the effectiveness of pesticides with the use of various precision agricultural practices. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce a brief outline of our discussion today. First, we're going to touch on some industry trends to set the context. I think that's important. We'll cover some emerging technologies, including our own, and then we'll touch on two use cases, one related to disease, another one on weed. So let's get started with industry trends. Let me confess, there are hundreds of good trends to pick. This is my bias, and I just want to highlight a few anchor trends that will have the greatest impact, particularly when you consider the supply side constraints of land and farming inputs. Naturally, all of these trends are driven by several underlying factors, including sustainable agriculture, surging demand for food crops, and the changes in consumer demand, including nutrient density, emphasis on health, and taste. So let's dive into my top picks. First, I want to cover the focus on soil health. Why is this so important? Well, soil preservation is directly linked to food security. Many of you know that the improvements related to fertility, pH, and compaction can be addressed at least in our lifetimes. But restoring the physical, chemical, and biological balance of the soil takes a very, very long time. With the focus on biological inputs, this will continue to drive the focus on soil health. Besides, good farmland is a discrete resource and increasingly becoming more expensive and regulated. Here's another trend: attracting new people. Many graduates, particularly listening to me here today, face tremendous debt after completing your studies. The average farm age is about 60. Helping young people discover how rewarding this industry will be essential. This is why the work by organizations like FFA and so others is so important. But this is not enough. We need to bring top talent from other industries into agriculture. Next trend: crop gene editing, or what's known also as CRISPR-Cas9. You see, conventional approaches to genetic engineering involve tedious procedures that take a very long time. Biotic and abiotic stressors are evolving fast, and this is affecting the productivity of crops as well as the quality. This is why the industry has a primary need to develop crops with improved adaptability, productivity, and resilience against all these stressors. CRISPR-Cas9 has emerged as a powerful tool, but the regulation of genome editing crops is still in its infancy. But here's the thing: where there is a market need and a technology available, there is a way, and gene crop editing will be very big. Last trend that I want to cover here today is crop monitoring. Not too long ago, I talked to Sam Ethington. Sam was the former Chief Science Officer for Climate Corporation. And I talked to him about our company's work, and he shared something very powerful. He said, Orlando, there are 4 billion acres of arable land in the world and about 375 million acres in the US. That's an average of a little over an acre of arable land per person in the US, and this is declining. So we absolutely need to find ways to grow better crops, and that will not scale with people. We will need smart monitoring technology and crop models. Sam is right, and other industry leaders know this well. Since the beginning of times, agriculture is all about smart automation, do more with less, and identifying ways to predict nature to improve crop outcomes. The specific areas here that we'll cover, you probably know: connectivity, agricultural drones, massive IoT, satellite imaging, and artificial intelligence. All this work of advancing crop and pest modeling to accelerate precision farming is incredibly exciting and necessary. And this is the work actually that our company Aker Technologies has been focusing on. Let me share one final note. One of the primary sectors that is being impacted by this last trend is the role of the ag retailer. For many years, retailers have relied on a relationship and domain expert model selling inputs and services to growers. From field agronomy to input management to distribution, data is everywhere. Ag retailers that want to stay ahead of the competition feel the need to reconcile the interpretation and utilization of this data to remain the grower's trusted advisor. This will not be an easy transformation for many. And there you have it. These are my top trends for great opportunities in the next year. Thank you. For many years now, there have been companies building remote sensing technologies for agriculture. Some are still here, some are gone. So let's talk about why. Focusing on practical approaches. Companies that focus on solving real problems, work on practical approaches, and seek to automate rather than disrupt have a much greater chance of success. Let's talk about value being greater than the cost. See, there is a direct relationship between the cost of field collection and the value of that insight. Take, for instance, satellite imagery. It has low cost, but it has also a low temporal and spatial resolution, which by itself, it is often not actionable. Let's talk about ground robots, probes, smart weather station. They have amazing real-time resolution, but they do not have broad coverage or favorable unit economics to scale. This is the reason why working to optimize this cost-value ratio has a huge payoff for the industry. Workflow integration. Everyone can appreciate that collecting data is just one of the many challenges. The next step is to make that data useful. Many sensors and analytic vendors can deliver powerful results, but the biggest opportunity here is to integrate these results into a workflow that the industry can and will adopt. Our agronomy lead, Alisa Cho, will talk later about some great examples that highlight the use of two emerging technologies that are tackling these principles. But first, I want to introduce Rantizo. We collaborated with them in several on-farm innovation trials this season in collaboration with the Danforth Plant Science Center and several growers in Central Illinois. Here's some of their work. We actually showcased this during a recent Innovation Field Day presentation. Enjoy.
Traditionally, agriculture has been focused on yield, getting more and doing so with bigger and heavier equipment. New techniques are more nimble, precise, and versatile, really focused on cost-effective application. Rantizo is a perfect solution in those instances. Rantizo has developed a drone spraying technology that gets right into fields where it's needed, when it's needed. We can fly and apply up and over muddy fields, delivering materials exactly to the right location, improving crop health and saving money. Rantizo is the market innovator in drone spraying. We've got a rapidly growing network of contractors nationwide. We've applied everything from blueberries on the West Coast, fungicide in the Midwest, to cover crop seeds out east. You could say the sky's the limit. Drones are not the future of agriculture, they are the present. Rantizo is excited to work with imagery companies like Aker to bridge the gap from analysis of fields to actionable applications. What happens in that situation is Aker will discover where the problems are, work with an agronomist, and then Rantizo can go out and precisely deploy an insecticide, herbicide, whatever else is needed to go treat the problem. In doing so, we dramatically reduce the amount of input costs, whether that's chemicals, fertilizers, or whatever else. This is a holistically cheaper and better way for farmers to do it, where they're having zero soil compaction on their field and reducing the amount of chemicals that are out there, which reduce runoff, waste, and other problems.
My name is Alyssa Cho, and I am the agronomy lead here at Aker. In my previous life, I was a professor at a land-grant institution and got my PhD in agronomy and my master's in horticulture. In my current role, I am at the intersection of emerging technologies and how they can be used in practical and effective manners. While aerial imagery can be useful, sometimes it doesn't tell us the whole story. TrueCause is a probe that can be dropped into a crop canopy from a drone and captures images, temperature, humidity, CO2, and pressure. These data points provide insights into crop stressors and the microclimatic conditions that allow them to arise. Since TrueCause is a new technology, a significant portion of my job is running experimental trials with partners to identify appropriate applications of this technology. One of these trials was from a project we funded internally, partnering with a grower in Illinois. This trial was looking at using TrueCause for monitoring and creating a precision application map to apply a high value cost and high cost fungicide, in this case, Veltima. We partnered with Rantizo to conduct an aerial drone application of Veltima on a 20-acre section of this field. First, we used aerial images, both NDVI and NDRE, and images from the TrueCause probe to capture data that gave us insight into how we would like to apply Veltima in that specific area. In addition to the drone-based application, we compared these with conventional applications of Gold Rush and DriveAPro on similar acreage within the same field. We also included an untreated check. The primary hypothesis for this work was that using drone-based detection and reduced application, a grower can achieve yield, increase, and also profitability. We could see from the aerial images and the TrueCause images that there were issues with stand establishment in the upper portion of this specific field. Using that knowledge, we created a reduced spray application map for Rantizo to implement that would help us to maximize product application on plants that could most benefit from that fungicide. On July 29th, Rantizo applied Veltima using a swarm application with 2 of their Rantizo drones, and it was quite impressive. At Aker, we've continually been monitoring this field for disease pressure, for insect damage, for weed pressure, and other abiotic stressors throughout the season. Just to give you some examples of the data that we captured, these NDVI maps and pins illustrate some of the data that help us to understand product performance and also to deepen our understanding of the field conditions as we start to evaluate our yield data that I'll talk about now. Visually, the symptoms in the Veltima area show a really big improvement from the pre to post application. And the area that we didn't apply up in that upper portion of the field, you can see that it worsened over time. So when we start moving and talking about yield, I want to just represent that our yields are averages over the entire treated area. So in this case, I included that poor stand establishment area, as well as the higher yielding portion of the Veltima field, as well as averaging across all the other regions to actually reflect how these products perform in the field, especially when you use a reduced application. Veltima had the highest yield per acre, that was followed by Gold Rush and then DriveAPro, with the lowest yield in the untreated check. Now let's talk about money. One of the biggest challenges with adoption of new technologies can be the cost. While that is true in many cases, the payoff can also be high. So in our ovation trial, we are closely tracking these costs and benefits on our own with our own technology, as well as that of partners such as with Rantizo. If you look at just the cost per acre of each treatment, obviously the untreated check is the least expensive. The cost of application ranges though from $18 to just under $34 an acre. These include the costs of both the product themselves as well as the application costs. For the Veltima, I also included the cost of that drone-based application from Rantizo, as well as the cost of the product. And I also included the cost of a visit from Aker to do one type of scouting to create that precision map. I also included a reduced application rate of around 10% per acre, since the concept behind the use of drone-based detection and application include that ability to actually reduce the overall product that you're applying in the fields. Even with that reduced cost of product, the total rate is high at around $34 an acre. That number might be too high for a grower to want to adopt this outright, especially with a high cost fungicide like Veltima. But in our case, the payoff is there. The profit that a grower might expect to get from this, from the highest yielding one, is the drone-based application at $55 per acre. Let's look at another example, this time on weed management. In this example, a client was interested in testing our technology for detecting weed escapes and using Rantizo to target specific areas of the field for herbicide application. TrueCause can identify stressors, including weeds, within the crop canopy and from above using aerial imagery. So using these approaches, a user can identify areas of their fields that might need attention. One challenge to weed management is scouting efficiently and effectively for weeds, especially once the crop is established and the crop canopy makes it very difficult for physical scouting to occur. TrueCause can make this process automated, replicated, and scaled in a manner that can't be achieved easily with human scouts. So with TrueCause, for example, a 20-acre field trial can be mapped in less than 20 minutes. The images from TrueCause can help that user identify specific areas of the field where weed management might need to occur. So this is an example image from our customer field that illustrates a need for weed management, in this specific case, in a weed escapes trial. So this was an intentional weed escape. However, the map on the right shows where we can actually transfer that into a reduced application map, where we can target specific areas of the field using these aerial and under the canopy images to make a reduced drone application, in this case with Rantizo. In this case, we saw an increase of 4 bushels per acre on the applied versus control areas of the field. There are many reasons that one might consider using a drone-based herbicide application. Although there are costs associated with a new technology, the payoff can extend beyond just the immediate yield bump from the treated acres and the reduction in product that you end up applying in the field. Drone-based precision application can help growers be more strategic in their integrated weed management, specifically in rotating chemistries and tracking herbicide resistance in their fields. Reducing areas that are applied with herbicides will further delay resistance buildup in fields and extend the ability to control weeds with these chemistries that we currently have. We plan to continue to develop our research partnerships in integrated weed management as we seek to drive practical application of precision drone applications in agricultural production.
In the last few years, digital technology and remote sensing in general have come a long way. The environment keeps changing. Input costs and commodity prices will continue to drive grower efficiency. And there's still a significant gap between what happens in the field and yield potential. I hope that you can relate to everything that we cover here today. Our perspective is that remote sensing automation and drones in general, they're not a concept into the future, but they're a reality today that can scale and bring practical value to this industry. Thank you.